All eyes on the Middle East as President Trump sets off on one of the first foreign trips of his second term. But an Air Force One controversy with Qatar could cloud his travel plans. Lots of stops and a full plate of pressing issues await the president as he heads Monday to Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates. It's the first major foreign trip of his presidency. But Trump on the defense just hours ahead of his departure, firing back at critics of a reported plan for him to receive a Boeing jet from the government of Qatar. Trump saying the free of charge plane would temporarily replace Air Force One and would be kept by his eventual presidential library after the end of his term.
I think it's a great gesture from Qatar. I appreciate it very much. I would never be one to turn down that kind of an offer. I mean, I could be a stupid person and say, no, we don't want a free, very expensive airplane. But I thought it was a great gesture. And I think it was a gesture because of the fact that we have helped and continue to, we will continue to, all of those countries, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar and others, we keep them safe. If it wasn't for us, they probably wouldn't exist right now. And I think this was just a gesture of good faith.
The Hill's White House reporter Brett Samuels is tracking everything about this story and the president's trip, and he joins us now. Brett, let's start with reaction to this brewing drama in the skies. Trump taking heat even from some of his closest allies. What are critics saying, and what are you hearing from the White House on this?
Yeah, Judy, it's been interesting to watch. Certainly Democrats have jumped all over this gifted plane from Qatar to the Trump administration. Certainly Democrats have been all over this, argued that it is an ethics violation. It's a conflict of interest. They've, sort of cried foul and said, what if former President Obama, former President Biden were to accept a gift like this from a foreign nation? But it's been interesting to see that even some Republicans and even some Trump allies are clearly a bit uncomfortable about this. Laura Loomer, for example, a controversial figure who is an outspoken Trump ally, suggested this could be a stain on Trump's presidency. Ari Fleischer, former George W. Bush spokesperson, said that even if this is legal, which the Trump White House has argued it is, that it still doesn't seem right. So it has certainly been interesting to watch the, even from Republicans, lukewarm at best reception to this.
Brett, the plane controversy comes as Trump is about to embark on this high-profile trip to the Middle East. Just like in 2017, this marks the second time that Trump's bucking tradition, heading to that region for his first trip abroad. Most presidents visit allies like Canada, Mexico, or the UK for their inaugural foreign trip. What's the significance of heading to the Middle East?
Yeah, Judy, as you noted, it is interesting sort of the symmetry that in 2017, Trump's first trip abroad of his first term was to the Middle East. Similar move here, with the exception, of course, of going to Rome for Pope Francis' funeral a couple weeks ago. But first official sort of government business trip here. I think the significance is really the emphasis on sort of business deals, investments in the United States. Trump certainly wants to tout that. He wants to tout that he's getting these investments for the U.S. economy to sort of reassure certainly consumers, reassure the public, business owners, the stock market, all of that. Certainly these are very wealthy countries he's going to, countries that could do business with the United States and provide a boost. Notable that Israel, a top U.S. ally, is not on the itinerary for this trip to the Middle East. Certainly not a sign that there are fraying relations there, but I think just sort of an emphasis on the fact that the focus here is on sort of business deals and investment deals.
You're mentioning business deals. What else is expected to be on the agenda for Trump while he's there? What issues are considered the priority?
Yeah, so, those business deals, those financial deals will certainly be, I think, front and center and something Trump is going to look to tout and say, here's a tangible thing that I got out of this trip. He did sort of tease today the possibility that he could even make sort of a side trip to Turkey on Thursday when officials from Ukraine and Russia are tentatively expected to hold negotiations there over ending the war in Ukraine. So, if that did happen, that would certainly be a very notable priority for Trump that he is making part of this trip and something he could, sort of take home and say that this was a sort of product of this trip. And then I think more broadly, just sort of Middle East foreign policy when it comes to Iran, Israel, Gaza, et cetera. That will all sort of, I think, kind of loom over this visit.
Brett, do you think the fury over this Qatar plane news is going to fade, or are we going to see it hover over the president's Middle East trip?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting question because as everything seems to be with Trump, what is a controversy on Monday by Wednesday feels like old news. So I think it will be worth watching kind of how the reception is. I think this is something Democrats would like to keep a spotlight on because they view it as sort of a brazen conflict of interest that Trump is conducting here. But certainly I think if you're the White House, there could be all kind of new developments by the end of this trip that might just sort of push this Qatar controversy to the background. But certainly I think when Trump is in Qatar later in the week is when that controversy may sort of bubble back up and be sort of top of mind.
Brett Samuels, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, Judy.